In 5. Welcome, everybody, to a somewhat depleted No Shots Fired podcast, episode 23, The Real Leader Veiled in a Dark Omen. I am joined, as I almost always am at this point, by Junkblade. Junkblade, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well today.
Excellent. Fortunately,
one of those days that just started off well and has basically been ending well.
That's about all we can ask for at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone who missed last week's show, Valen is on assignment off in the European continent. And Tommy Tom just kind of failed to alert us to his actual schedule, which also just kind of fits. So
Sounds about right.
But fear not. Junkblade and I are more than enough podcasting power to put us through episode 23.
Indeed we are.
Looking at the docket, it looks like we got a couple different games to talk about. I guess I'll go first with my continuing adventures in Octopath Traveler. A game I still have not put enough time into as I would have liked, but I did a little more since last week. Still really enjoying the visuals and kind of the movement exploration. It's very much kind of a Super Nintendo RPG style in terms of you're walking around, like I'm right now walking around a forest. There's treasure chests that you're opening, and the combat is very snappy. It's kind of you kind of have a turn order at the top of the screen, but you can affect that by discovering enemies' weaknesses to different weapon types or spell types.
Okay.
They have a shield with like a number on it, and so that's the number of those weakness hits they can take before they get like it says like break, and they're like disoriented and lose a turn.
Okay.
So kind of chaining that stuff can allow you to get a lot more hits in, and they take additional damage when that takes place as well. The character I'm using right now, I think, is what you would call the hunter class.
Okay.
She's got a bow and an axe, and she can also capture enemies and summon them for a certain number of summons in battle before they go away. But they'll do additional types of damage. So I'm really liking kind of the variety of options in combat that she has.
Okay.
And kind of the really cool thing, and this will mostly affect the gameplay experience. I have no idea about if there's a connective story to this at all. I hope there is, but I have not looked into that. But once I get out of this person's kind of, tutorial starting area, I can go to any one of the other 8 characters and add them to my party next. So you can really kind of tailor what you want. So I think I'll go probably to the cleric, so I have some healing, power leveling up from the very start, because I think that's always a good thing to have.
Yes.
In RPGs. But the music's fantastic. I have not really gotten into any of the other systems yet, but so far still really enjoying. And something I think, if it were on other platforms, I would have no trouble recommending to you and Valen and the other people on the crew. So
Yeah, I just don't have a Switch right now, or currently the money to drop on one.
Yep. There was had I caught it when it was happening, I probably would have texted or called you guys, but Target had this crazy mix-up, I think, with like stacking coupons, where
Okay.
people were getting Switches with like 3 games for like under $200,
Nice.
and like choosing store pickup to go get it before Target realized their mistake, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think a few people got it, but unfortunately that was all these things seem to happen like 30 minutes after I fall asleep. So unfortunately, I missed out on that. But
I know the feeling a little bit.
Oh yeah, these days it's all about the scarcity.
Indeed it is.
You haven't really I'm guessing you haven't tried to get any of those the classic consoles that Nintendo's been putting out.
I have not.
No.
Not yet, anyway.
Saved yourself quite the headache. Now, they say they're redoing both the NES and the Super Nintendo Classic. I know they did a much better job with the Super Nintendo Classic in terms of supply, but like I actually saw one just sitting at a Best Buy the other week, and I almost bought it out of sheer shock. Even though I already have one, but those are cool little systems for people who haven't held on to their cartridges and that sort of stuff. It's a cool solution.
I've only got a few cartridges left myself. I know my cousins have a few, but I don't know how many.
Well, you've got a couple expensive ones too, right? You've got X2.
I've only got the one. I've only got X3. Okay. I put out like APB on finding my copies of X1 and X2 with the cousins, but there was no success in that matter.
Say X3, I think, is over $200 for just the cartridge.
Yes, it is.
X1 you can get for like 30, I think, so that's reasonable. But X2, I think X2 is over 150, I think. So it's
X2, I would argue, is like the best balanced of those three.
Yeah.
X1, just you don't really get the Buster upgrade until either literally the last stage when you fight Vile, or B, you somehow know exactly the jump to make and find the actual capsule for it.
Okay, so it does not factor into enough of the game to really count as a significant
X2, I think you can get that. Theoretically, you could get it at like the before even fighting the second boss. You just have to kill the right boss first.
Oh, wow, okay. I wouldn't have a hard time believing that, because X2, you kind of refine it before they get a little silly with the third one, probably, right?
X3, the damage is completely off. Like, they balanced it around you having the armor capsule.
Oh, okay.
So the armor capsule decreases damage by 50%. So before you get the capsule, you're taking an insane amount of damage compared to what you're dishing out.
Let's say 50%. That's a serious damage decrease for sure. So.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, I don't think I've been playing anything else. I don't think so. I've been lazy this week.
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Link to the Past randomizer. How much do I need to know about the base game before trying one of those out? Like, should I play the base game through at least once and then look at the guide as to what the items do?
I mean, you could, because it is not a necessarily long game. To be honest, like watching a race or two might even be better if you have kind of because you know enough about Zelda and stuff to know what the hookshot does and what you need the bow for and that sort of stuff. So kind of seeing the strategies and stuff that the people in the races use is almost more valuable, and you can kind of remember the older, the basic stuff as you go along. But in terms of learning which which locations to attack, which have chests and that sort of stuff, that's what I've done, at least. Like
makes sense.
I probably have played Link to the Past a little more than you have, but watching the races is what has given me the.
You've almost certainly played it more than I have. I think the most recent Game Boy one I recall trying was Oracle of Seasons, and there's just a part that I cannot get past, which is you have to dance with the guys in the lava place. And like I just can't react fast enough, or it doesn't register fast enough.
That's
trying it on an emulator.
Yeah, on the emulator, yeah, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. The mobile ones are not ones I think A Link Between Worlds is the only one I've beaten at this point. I've played Minish Cap a fair amount. I have not, Oracle of Ages and Seasons are two well-regarded games, but I have not put much time into those. But.
I have Phantom Hourglass here, I'm pretty sure. I should actually get around to playing that one.
I think that got okay reviews, but I think, and I played it to some degree, but you have to return back to this same castle dungeon like every time you beat another dungeon, and you have to like retraverse it. And it is not good backtracking. So I would give it a try because some people do really like it, but I think that was a breaking point for me on that one for sure. Speaking of backtracking, oh, this is good. I'm proud of myself for this segue. You've probably done a fair amount of that in Halle Night this week.
Yes, I have. I have done a lot of backtracking in Halle Night because I frankly can't remember the areas where it's like, okay, I can't get through here because of this. Mm-hmm. So I've like cleared out everything else in every other area I have access to, other than the areas that I literally cannot get to, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going into the Royal Waterways next. Is the next area.
Okay. What about what hour count are you at now?
Give me a moment to check that.
Because it's kind of funny because that game came out last year. I think it was last year, but both you've started playing it and one of the websites I read, a couple people there have started playing it recently and are just gushing about it. So it's kind of funny.
Jeez, I'm at the 20-hour count, and I don't think I'm actually that far.
I think they said like 30 to 40, so you made...
I've gotten... 30 to 40 actually does sound right. I've gotten half the charms in the game, which are one of the main things you search for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that could be a measure.
Upgrade things you can get.
Okay. I
think you've got 21 and there are a grand total of 40.
Okay. Still enjoying the combat and the movement and all that sort of stuff?
Yes, I am. The only thing I didn't enjoy was sorry, gonna adjust the camera just a moment.
All right.
The only thing that I did not enjoy was a boss called the Soul Tyrant, and it's because some time passed between when I got this upgrade and when I tried to face him. So I was being a complete moron and didn't realize there was a way to just ignore him for the moment, and thought I was like stuck and had to beat him before I could actually do anything else.
So kind of have to beat your head against it.
Yes, because he's got two forms, and the first form took me 80 hits to get through.
Oh my goodness.
Because you had to like hit him 19 times to get him to his vulnerable form. Then you had to hit his vulnerable form 5 times, and you could only hit it once each time.
Oh wow.
So
you said this was the Soul Tyrant, so
or maybe it was 100 times. I think I just
a lot of times
trying to keep track. It was a lot of times. And then he has a second form where you don't have any time to focus and heal your guy if you get damaged, and you're almost certainly going to get damaged.
Yeah.
So I was very thankful to find out that I had just been dumb and there was a way to get out of there, go upgrade my weapon, then come back and fight him.
Oh, okay.
Because I hadn't even upgraded the nail the first time yet, and that's something that trips a lot of people up, is that they don't get it upgraded quickly enough, and then parts of the game become much harder than they're intended to be.
Yeah, I could definitely see increasing attack power being a really critical part of progress in that game for sure. Okay. Yeah, sometimes I get it stuck in my head, and I just keep going and get it going and going, and I don't realize that there's other stuff to get or something like that, and that's just it's hard to break out of that sometimes.
I'm glad I found the way out, because it was reaching that point in the game where it's like, this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing that would get me to drop a game entirely if I weren't so freaking stubborn.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Even though you have to pay a lot of geo, is what they call it in this game, to get all the markers for it, I love the map system in this game. Like, I just love that there is a map coming from Dark Souls where it's like, okay, I have to remember exactly where I went every single time, or I'm going to get lost.
That I do like how it kind of the clues that you get to find the map maker and that sort of thing in each area. And it's a cool thing that it just doesn't, like, it's just enough to make it cool to kind of find the map, but I haven't been frustrated about like my lack of ability to find it in an area yet. I don't know if maybe there's an area that's not as well designed or something, but that does seem to
There
be kind
probably is.
But so far I'm impressed with that.
Because for one, I don't know how far in you are, and for two, every game just has that one area.
Oh yeah.
For example, Mario and water levels. Or underground levels, depending on who you are.
Yeah. I will. That is Mario Odyssey might be the first Mario game where the water levels were not even because you can take over like a Cheep and just swim around no problem. Like those, I had no problem playing those levels, I guess.
Darn kids back in my day.
Yeah, exactly. Stupid iterative game design and learning from mistakes.
Indeed.
Okay, so you're definitely still into Hollow Knight and probably gonna put some more time into it, you think?
Yes, I would say it's one of the top 5 platformers I've ever played.
That's pretty good. And I think there's a free update coming out next month, I think. Let me see.
I am going to make an effort in between now and next time we do a podcast to download the new Darkest Dungeon DLC and actually play it. I will have to start a new manor for a bit to try it out because you can't add DLC to an in-progress campaign.
Oh, really?
You also can't disable DLC on an in-progress campaign because I wanted to just disable the Crimson Court DLC and was unable to.
That's kind of a problem. Okay, yes, Hollow Knight Gods and Glory update. A free update. August 23rd.
And I would just like to take a moment here to say how much I appreciate game companies that do things like this. Like the company that makes Shovel Knight, for example, the DLC was free if you already owned the game.
Yeah. Yeah, well then they made like whole new campaigns even with Shovel Knight, right?
They made 2 whole new campaigns, and it only cost something if you didn't already own it. If you already owned it, then you just got it for free. Yeah.
And I think that kind of goodwill, like, kind of almost make, maybe it doesn't make them more money, but like I'm probably going to buy that on another platform, just to, because like I got it on my Wii U. I think I'm probably going to get it on the Switch because I think that would be a good portable game.
Yes.
And I'm willing, I'm even more willing to do that because I kind of want to support the company,
Well, it's so important for an indie company, especially, to engender goodwill with its audience because they don't have, the money base of a AAA company to...
Or almost that institutional memory of like, oh, Call of Duty's out, I'm going to get Call of Duty because that's what I do, sort of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, they don't have stuff like that, So attempts like this to foster goodwill, I always give a thumbs up because that's what will retain me as a customer.
Yeah. Yeah, and even, like, as long as it's, like the free stuff is ideal, and even, like, but I'll still kind of, if it's reasonably priced, I'm still fine with it. It's almost, like, I'm almost just really fed up with kind of the blind box cosmetic stuff.
Okay.
Like, just kind of let me get the stupid car in Rocket League that I want to get, right? Like, not only like the blind box aspect of it, so it's like a lot of, a roulette wheel, but I have to, I get the crate by playing it, but I have to pay money to get the key to open it.
Yeah, Valve does that with TF2 and
Counter-Strike and Dota, and it's just that aspect of it really kind of rubs me the wrong way.
I do agree with you in the aspect of if a DLC is cheap, I'm absolutely willing to buy it. Like, for example, the Crimson Court, even though I don't like the DLC, it was still worth the $5 to give it a shot.
Yes.
$5 is quite literally a meal at Wendy's. It's not that much. It's not like I bought a $60 game and I'm like, well, this is crap.
Yeah.
There goes $60.
And I'm sorry, Fuzzy Dunlop. We already concluded our Octopath Traveler discussion, so we'll have to go back to the VOD to catch that hot 10 minutes of conversation. Okay, but I think we've got an interesting. You've got an interesting kind of mix of Darkest Dungeon and D&D to tell us about. Is that correct?
Okay, so in the D&D campaign I'm playing in, all the characters have been transported into the dungeon, which is a very, very large dungeon, as you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
It has very large areas that are completely different. Like, there's the swamp area, there's the underground ocean area, there's the hobgoblin fortress area, and you never know when you're going to turn in somewhere and just end up somewhere completely different, because that's what the dungeon does.
Okay.
And
so like a maze almost.
Yes. The inspiration for this dungeon was the game Darkest Dungeon. So, for example, one of the menaces in the dungeon is the Pigmen, which are described as pig skin basically stretched over a human skeleton.
Gross.
Which, of course, is like the swine enemies in Darkest Dungeon.
Okay.
And then another type of enemy are the fish people, which are based off of the pelagics in Darkest Dungeon in the Cove.
Pigmen never on the good side of a story, are they?
Not that come to mind. Most animal people, at least in older stories, tend to be on the bad side.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
but even in modern times, people have not given the pigmen the
pigmen in particular.
It seems so.
There's the Gamorreans in Star Wars. They're kind of okay.
Which one? Are they though? Aren't they the guards of Jabba's palace?
They are the guards in Jabba's palace, but I don't think they're like, inherently chaotic evil like some races in Star Wars.
No, but still not like there's
still not great representation.
No, like Gamorrean Jedi Order or anything like that, as far as I know. No,
I'm pretty sure you're correct there.
But that, maybe we're getting closer.
Back to the D&D thing for just a moment. So what the Dungeon Master has told me, and what I could have guessed based on the fact this is based on Darkest Dungeon, the dungeon is actually a prison for a great old one from the Cthulhu mythos.
Okay.
Luckily, we're not dealing with like a full-on outer god, just like the high priest of one or something, which is, what Cthulhu is.
Wait, Cthulhu's not even like the ultimate...
No, Cthulhu is just the harbinger for even worse stuff.
Oh, man. I just can't keep up with all of these things.
For example, Azathoth, the blind idiot god.
That's not a great name. Azathoth?
Azathoth.
That does not roll.
He's a giant rat, and when he wakes up, the entire universe will be destroyed.
Well, does he have to put any effort into it, or just...
Nope, just
his
by
consciousness? Well, when was he awake the first time? How did he gain
I've never actually read the Cthulhu mythos, I will admit.
Say, I've put literally zero effort into researching this, but if he was does that imply that he was never? Then how do we know that that's his power if the universe ends? See, I think Azathoth created this mythos around himself just to be lazy. And just to have no one come bother him, and somehow people bought it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. You come here for the truth about the old gods. Turns out they're all a bunch of scammers.
The Cthulhu mythos, most of it anyways, was written by H.P. Lovecraft, who was literally afraid of everything. The man was terrified of penguins.
Well, really?
Yeah.
Like even the tiny penguins?
Even the tiny penguins. Like, he was racist, and that's not cool, but I also kind of just feel sorry for him, because when you hear the man was terrified of penguins, you realize he was probably literally afraid of just about everything.
Man. So, now my fear is of monkeys.
That is a completely justified fear, because I've heard of people with pet monkeys having to get face transplants.
They're always planning something. They have tiny human hands. They can just get. They've got the game changer opposable thumbs. They're very strong.
This is why you should not get a monkey as a pet. For many reasons, actually, and should just get a corgi, because corgis are adorable.
Yes.
That is the message of today's podcast.
Corgis
audience.
over monkeys, everybody. It's not hard. Penguins, though, I just don't... You're not going to run into enough penguins for it to be a problem, I don't think. Like, they're...
Not unless you're planning on literally living in Antarctica.
Yeah, like they're all... Are there any penguins north of the equator?
Not... I think there are some tropical penguins, oddly enough.
But even that's like the equator, basically.
Yeah,
they're in like Galapagos or some shit, and I'm not going there anyway. So,
let's see.
What we're trying to say is, come on, H.P. Lovecraft, get it together.
He lived in America and died in 1937. So. The only place the man ever would have seen a penguin is at a zoo.
And they probably didn't even have, like, the zoo displays they have now where you can, like, walk underneath and come up in a plastic bubble and be among the penguins. So you didn't even get that close.
Yeah.
Small children get closer these days.
Yeah.
Okay. Well. But he wrote a book about a tentacle guy who apparently is not the ultimate evil that I thought he was.
He wrote a fair number of books, actually.
Nope, just the one. Just that one. Okay. Well, so, if I recall correctly, one of the big parts about, like, Darkest Dungeon is, like, getting inflicted with status effects?
There are several different status effects you can get inflicted with, and, the reason I dislike the Crimson Court is it adds one that is completely obnoxious.
Oh, you told me about that.
Yeah. But there are other status effects you can get inflicted with. You can be inflicted with diseases, which have varying effects from not that big of a deal to, oh crap, I need to get that cured right now.
Okay.
You can get negative quirks, which, again, could be anything from not that big of a deal to get them in the sanitarium, they need to be cured. And once your hero hits 100 stress in a dungeon, they have two options. They can either become... I forget the general term for it, but the things that come up are like paranoid, panicked,
one of them can be positive, right? They can be like, oh.
They can also be positive.
Okay.
It's like, one, you give in to the stress and despair, and then the entire screen goes red. Or you get a virtue, you lose about half your stress, and go back to, like, 45 out of 100, out of 200, because 200 is the point where you immediately die.
So is this an aspect of the game that was translated to D&D fairly well, or
We have not translated the stress aspect, but the
Okay.
disease aspect has absolutely been translated. Several of the PCs have at times gotten rather unpleasant. What's the one you get from Oregon Trail?
Dysentery?
Dysentery, yes. My character avoids going in the water.
Okay, interesting. Is that something you guys are going to try to implement, you think? Or
I don't think we're going to try and implement the stress or the
that would be a tough...
bad quirks, because at that point, you may as well just play a different system.
Yeah.
D&D's not really built for that. There are systems
That's
that
what
are
I was trying to think of how that would kind of work, and I don't...
I think Call of Cthulhu does have something very similar to that. They've got an insanity system.
Okay.
So if we wanted to literally play like Darkest Dungeon, we would go with Call of Cthulhu.
Okay. How many sessions are you into this one?
That's a good question. I would guess at least a dozen.
Okay.
We're only level 5 right now, but it's intended to be a slow-moving campaign.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Mine,
a lot of exploration and stuff like that.
Mine, I tend to rush a little more than I should. I acknowledge that as a failing of mine as a GM.
Well, I mean, a little too quick is probably better than too long.
Yeah.
Right? Leave them wanting more is always a good...
Yeah.
A good thought. So, let me see. So, I think with that...
I was going to say, I can't remember if I told you guys what the PCs in my campaign found out last session, which is that, well, the players found out because they have out-of-character knowledge. The PCs don't know this yet.
Okay.
The players know the final boss of the... or at least think the final boss of this campaign is going to be the Leviathan, which in D&D terms is a being of pure primordial chaos and basically wants to destroy existence.
Boy, just people not being very, chill, right? I mean...
It's pure chaos and wants to return the universe itself to pure
And none of them are
chaos.
very good at it, apparently, because that just doesn't seem to happen.
None of them are very good at it, apparently. You're correct there. Of course, This is D&D, where the heroes are intended to win.
Exactly. Okay, but it sounds like that is not going to be the final boss. We're going to get a Final Fantasy situation where...
I haven't decided yet.
Okay. After defeating, you go, aha! I was the one truly behind it. Fight me! It's like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
I used up all my
There's
items.
always the chance something like that could happen. I can be a kind and merciful god, or I can be, Zeus.
Yeah. Although to spoil Persona 4 a little bit, it turns out the actual true end boss of that game was the gas station attendant you talked to 5 minutes into the game and never saw again. But had to go through I had to look up the dialogue tree to be like, no, I don't think we actually won. And then have to go back to the gas station and be like, what about you, person I have never talked to before?
Okay, there's only one type of video game that should be the ending to, and that is Scooby-Doo.
To be fair, it is like a gang of kids solving crimes in a town.
It is fair, and I'm not even actually criticizing it.
And in Persona 3, you do have a dog. I don't know if it does the same thing in Persona 3 though. I think I'm a good number of hours into that one, but I have fallen off that one as well because I'm a terrible person. Okay, so the main topic that we kind of thought of this week, or Junkblade thought of more accurately, was underrated games or games that we seem to like a lot more than either our friends or just the internet writ large seem to. So, do you have anything to start us off with as I look around the room?
This one is sort of like a cult classic where it became it became more popular after it came out, which was Ogre Battle 64.
Okay.
I've mentioned this one a few times.
Mm-hmm.
My family seems to really enjoy this one, and we've got a few cousins that also do.
Okay.
It has a very long actual game. Like, if you play it the way it's intended, I think it'll take you 20 or 30 hours to get through, which is...
That's pretty good for an N64 game, especially.
Yeah. The main thing that I think holds the game back is the victory condition is just so stupid. Like,
okay,
if it's got a hidden meter called the Chaos Frame, and the pure fact that I already called it a hidden meter should tell you why that's already bad.
That's not a great sign.
You have to have all of your units be specific alignments when they take over towns with a certain level of morale.
Nope, I don't like it. That is bananas.
That is bananas, but there are certain events in the game where if you're looking at a guide, which I assume you are going to be looking at a guide for this game.
I think you would have to be.
Because you would have to be for this. There are certain paths you can take that raise your chaos frame, which raising it is a good thing, ironically.
Mm-hmm.
And raise it by a substantial number of points. Like, there's one that it's a scale of 0 to 100, and there's an event that'll raise it by 25, for example.
Okay.
So even if you spend a few missions ignoring that, you can make it up, as long as you aren't just going through the whole game ignoring that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is the one thing that I think holds it back. Well, also the fact that it ended on a cliffhanger and there's never going to be a sequel, but that's not the game's fault, that's the studio's fault.
Well, was that Square?
Yes, Square...
Well, you'd think they would have dove back.
I think this was back when there was...
Right? Square still?
Square Soft.
Or was it Enix? Either way, those two companies made like everything.
Here, let me just look up the companies that made it real quick.
Did you like? Have you played or did you like the Super Nintendo Ogre Battle games?
I gave March of the Black Queen a try, but it just did not. I wanted, something more like the 64 version, which is literally impossible on the Super Nintendo.
Interesting though. So because I guess I haven't looked too much into if one is preferable, but I feel like I hear a little bit more about the Super Nintendo version.
The Tactics Ogre Knight of Lotus for the Game Boy Advance is a much more traditional real-time strategy game, sort of like Final Fantasy Tactics, and a lot of people really like that one. I think I remember getting to the very end and being unable to actually win.
Yeah.
I was never any good at Final Fantasy Tactics, though.
That's a game I need to... so the GBA one, maybe this is one of mine. I have not put a ton of time into the PlayStation one, which I know is universally considered to be one of the best tactics RPGs ever.
Yeah, the Game Boy Advance is apparently a remake of another one called Let Us Cling Together.
Maybe.
Or a sequel or something. I should know this by now.
But Final Fantasy Tactics, I think I put almost 100 hours into that game, and I really enjoyed it. That's very well done.
I like that Evan or Valen and a few other people have played through that game so many times, they've had to come up with ridiculous restrictions to make the game a challenge again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Valen is bananas about that. And because Valen is on assignment in Spain for the moment.
So, back to Ogre Battle for just a moment.
Yes.
Person of Lordly Caliber is a sequel to March of the Black Queen, because your character from March of the Black Queen, who's called Destin the Valiant in this game, comes back with a bunch of allies. And I just genuinely like the characters in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Other than one who's a bad guy who dies real early on, and you're glad when he dies because he's just
those bad guys, no good. No good, I say. Says this observer. Okay, so that's I'd say that's definitely one I may want to give a try to, because just that's such a unique game on the Nintendo 64 for sure. Because man, that system had 0 RPGs.
The other sort of one of the ones I suggested is like a Dark Horse inclusion on the Nintendo 64 Classic or whatever it is they might come out with. Bomberman 64 is one that is ridiculously hard, but I still really enjoy. Like, you have to get all 100 of the golden cards to get the true ending, and
true
it's
endings. Just the worst.
Yeah, I'm thankful. At this point, I'm thankful for games where I can just play it once and get the actual ending, and not Shadow the Hedgehog, where I have to play the game through 12 times to get the real ending.
Oh, but you wanted to play through that game, right? That game was Shadow the Hedgehog, man.
When I was about 12 years younger and it came out, yes, because I had no taste as a 13-year-old.
That was the GameCube one, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I had it. I'm no better. That's just, I was still on the tail end of Series 2 being cool, so... Oh boy, that was a huge mistake.
Alright, so... What games do you feel are very underappreciated or weren't rightfully liked in their time?
Well, I say, like you, I'm having trouble thinking of ones that aren't, like, either haven't, through the passage of time, changed the perception. Like, I'll say, like, I was always a big fan of The Wind Waker. And there was a lot of crap heaped on that game as soon as, the trailers were seen. But that was...
Agreed.
But I remember getting that immediately and just diving into it and loving it. So I was ahead of the curve on that one. Please put your stuff in the chat, person who's texting me on the phone. And then other ones are just ones where I kind of have... I think Final Fantasy IX is underappreciated. I think it's a fantastic kind of last look at, old school Final Fantasy games, both in terms of tone and the the battle system and that sort of, just the feel of that game. I think is highly underrated. But my other opinion is probably just one where I'm being contrarian, although I'm convinced I'm right, is that Final Fantasy IV is better than Final Fantasy VI. But everyone seems to just really go crazy over that freaking opera scene in Final Fantasy VI, and I just don't get it.
I actually remember watching you and Evan play Final Fantasy IX for a bit.
Oh yeah, that was
looking it up.
We tried to beat that one summer.
I vaguely remember this giant mech-like thing called Alexander or something.
Oh yeah, who protected the city.
And that's really all I remember about it, other than like the way Vivi and Zidane looked.
Let's see, very cool characters, very cool kind of summon lore, and that's just a great game.
Which is surprising considering how Final Fantasy VIII was.
Oh god, that game. That's one I keep trying to go back and be like, it can't be that bad. And then I have to the junction system, and I have to draw spells from this stupid squirrel for 25 minutes.
I have a friend who really likes that game, and I can't talk crap about it in front of them. But, admittedly, I've never played it, but based on what I know about it, I have no reason to want to play it. Even if the story was amazing, which I've been told it isn't, the combat system is so bad that I wouldn't be able to get through it.
Yeah, you gotta have, either the combat's gotta be great, or the story has to keep you going through the combat.
Yeah.
Just none of the main characters just, and I know Cloud was also kind of emo, but at least he was, emo, a little more downplayed, as opposed to what was it? What's his name?
Squall.
Yeah, Squall.
You're
hearing this in a monologue, you're like, whatever.
The other thing is that, the supporting cast kind of helped make up for Cloud.
Yes. Yes, very true.
Tifa or Barrett or Eris.
Oh, Eris, I put so much effort into you and you died. Never got to see that final limit break. But yeah, I guess real quick reasons I think Final Fantasy IV is better than Final Fantasy VI. One, I think the narrative is better. There's too many characters in Final Fantasy VI. I don't care about any of them because there's not enough time.
That's fair.
You know,
that's always fair. That's something. That's something anything with a lot of characters has to keep in mind. Is if you are. Especially if you aren't going to develop some of them.
And I guess there is character development. I'm being a little reductive, but
yeah,
but it's not as tight of a story to me as Final Fantasy IV is. Two, sorry,
I was just going to say, if you can tell the story with 10 characters and develop each of them well, then you should tell it with 10 characters and develop each of them well, instead of telling it with 20, developing 10 of them well, and just having the other 10 be there.
Okay, I'm gonna get to these texts eventually, but point 2, you summon an airship from the ocean and go to the moon.
Okay,
which
that's
is
awesome.
3, I really like how they did summons in that game, where you have to, and part of, this might be something that was done in 6 also, but I think the iconic ones to me are the ones in 4, where you have to defeat the summon before you gain access to it. So Odin, you just had to dump as much damage as possible into before he would raise his sword and slice everyone in half and just kill them instantly. So that was a very frenetic battle. Bahamut up on the moon would just count down until he used his Mega Flare attack and would kill everybody, and it was just a very tense. I don't know. I just have, maybe it's because I played that more than I played 6 as a kid that it just stuck with me more. But I think I'm justified.
Having not played either.
Oh man, you gotta play those. They're so good.
I would say there are things that I know about Final Fantasy VI that I would like, and there are things that I know about Final Fantasy IV that I would like.
Yeah,
I can see why you would like Final Fantasy IV better than 6.
Yeah, I'm not pretending that Final Fantasy VI is a bad game. They're both fantastic. I just have a problem with the amount of love that 6 gets, and 4 seems to be almost ignored at this point. Okay, so I've gotten a few texts from someone who may not have quite understood the topic we're talking about entirely, because we've got Monkey Ball, which I think was a pretty popular. I mean, maybe that's. I guess you don't really see it as much these days, so it might be a little forgotten. It's more in my mind because I see it at the speedrun events and it's bananas. I can't ever resist making that joke.
I don't blame you.
But I would play a new Monkey Ball, I think.
I would play a new Monkey Ball as well. If I had the system, which I likely wouldn't.
No, we gotta get you a Switch. Overcooked is.
I've got to get me a Switch. I've got to just decide. You know what? I'm buying a Switch, so I'm going to save money for a Switch and then buy the Switch.
There you go. Overcooked is a wildly popular game. I don't know what you're talking about.
Overcooked?
Yes. So Overcooked is like a multiplayer game where you're trying to fill like cooking orders. So you're all running around this kitchen. It's like an isometric view, chopping ingredients. Putting them on the stove. Stuff can catch on fire. Then the kitchens get crazier and crazier. I'm really excited about the next one that comes out is actually going to have online co-op play because this one was.
Okay, I think we can automatically disqualify anything that has a sequel from the underappreciated or overlooked.
Well, a sequel that's literally coming out this year. But
yeah,
well, I did just mention Final Fantasy IV, which has a bunch of. But anyway,
that's fair. That's different, though. I mean something that's recent, and you're saying Final Fantasy IV is comparatively underappreciated, rather than
that's true.
Just generally underappreciated.
No. Shout out to Overcooked for sure. Ecco the Dolphin. I don't think that was ever a good game. Maybe this is the definition of underappreciated, but I could never get. I'm going to be honest. I had the Game Gear version, and I could never get out of the starting area. So maybe this is
I've never played it.
Okay, well, I can't tell you anything about it other than it's hard to get out of the starting area as a child.
Apparently you play as a dolphin, and I don't want to do that because dolphins are terrible, terrible, terrible animals.
They're very mean. Like, yeah.
I think a shark is as likely to save you as a dolphin.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a video the other day of a killer whale essentially punting a seal 80 feet in the air. I'm going to have to test you that it's the most insane thing. Like, I've described it to you, and still, like, watching it, you're like, oh my god. Okay, we Ecco the Dolphin. Legend of Kyrandia, that's a good game, although that did get... Legend of the one that you're talking about, anonymous texter, who's my sister, is the third, the one we played was the third in that series, and that's the one I was sending you the music of, Junkblade. So that's those point-and-click, kind of old-school point-and-click. I think it's Westwood is the studio that did that one. That's a lot of fun, a lot of fun for me, but I need to go back and play it now to kind of figure out if that was just kind of us playing it as kids that I'm remembering, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But the point-and-click adventure game has seen a little bit of a resurgence, I would say, in terms of Broken Age and...
Although it's been a while since I played one, I did enjoy the Phoenix Wright point-and-click game I was playing.
Yes. Yeah, Phoenix Wright's very good. The Ace Attorney games are cool. And yeah, there's been so many kind of variations on that thing. Life is Strange was an interesting game, I would say, in that vein. Ooh, Golden Sun. That's a good one.
I need to actually get through that game because I did enjoy playing it.
Now, I think I got through the first one, but I think they literally like bridged the first into the second, so you almost have to beat the second one to get the complete story.
Yeah, it was like there were 4 temples, and you dealt with the first 2 in the first game,
you're right,
and then
the
next 2 in the something like that. And I would absolutely play those games, the first one again. I've never actually got around to the second one because I never beat the first one.
Yeah. But no, yeah, there was fun puzzle solving. The music was great. The battle system was fun with the djinn and stuff like that. I think that is a very good. I think there was a DS game that was not very well received, and I think the series kind of fizzled out after that. Let's see, what else have we got on here? The Sims. Sims. Maybe one of the better selling franchises of all time, but Roller Coaster Tycoon, that was a good game.
Roller Coaster Tycoon is still a good game.
Oh yeah.
I have it in my Steam library. I still boot it up occasionally just because.
Which version do you have?
I just have like the first one as far as I know. It's just called Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if the other ones are Roller Coaster Tycoon Deluxe.
Okay, so maybe that has other stuff kind of folded in there. But Roller Coaster Tycoon a wonderful game. And then let's see, the last one I've got on this text chain here is Device 6, which was a mobile game. I'm not sure if it was ever out on anything else, but mobile. And I don't. That was one I kind of played a little bit of and said, "This is perfect for my sister. I'm just going to send it to her." And I don't know if I actually completed it, but it was a cool kind of, very stylistic kind of graphics, kind of like you're scrolling through kind of text type things. It's tough to describe. Since it's been probably a couple of years, I think, since I looked at that. But yeah, mobile games, I haven't played a ton of them. There are some cool, there are some ones that are pretty cool ideas, but it just has not been a medium that's taken off for me as much as it, as much as people may have thought it was. Like, there are some cool puzzle games that are great on a phone, that sort of thing. Like, I still play Pokemon Go on and off, but it just has not taken over my life as people kind of...
I've been kind of taking a break from mobile games, including, even though this isn't technically a mobile game, Hearthstone, just because I haven't really been enjoying them lately. So, my philosophy is always, if you're not enjoying something, it's time to take a break from it.
That's smart.
Get back to it later.
I should probably follow that more often.
Because the way I see it, because this is how I tend to be, if I keep playing something after I stop enjoying it, I get burnt out on it for much longer.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, if I stop, I might not play it for a month. But if I keep going after I stopped enjoying it, I'll be burnt out on it for like a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Although, and I think the little I did play of Hearthstone was on like the mobile versions, and that was actually a really good, well done version of that game. I was impressed.
It is. I just haven't. The meta in Hearthstone has been completely boring to me, and
that's got to be a tough one to keep up, right? I would think.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
just as a nature of the
game type,
almost.
It's hard to make an interactive card game and keep it interactive for extended periods of time. And right now, the meta every deck in the meta that I play just feels like, okay, they're trying to do their thing and win as quickly as possible. They don't even care that my board or whatever exists.
Okay.
You're playing the game at someone, not with someone.
Yeah, I think. I do. From afar, I have appreciated that. It seems like they've made an effort to kind of put like story stuff into these expansions, so it's not just here's we're gonna splat a bunch of new cards down on the table and go get them. There's at least some effort in the the presentation of it, I guess, which I if I was playing it, I think I would appreciate that a bit more. Have you played? Okay, John, have you played into the Yu-Gi-Oh games? So I have not. So I have nothing here.
I have not played that game like I thought I would because the deck I was building ended up getting banned.
Why? Okay.
And
why did it?
The ban list in Yu-Gi-Oh is really weird. So 2 cards were put on what is called the semi-limited list.
Yellow card.
So I thought it would still be useful because I thought, I can have 2 of each because that's what the semi-limited list made it sound like. No, you can only have 2 total of any combination of cards on the semi-limited list.
Oh my goodness.
So in a game where in this version of the game, you only have 20 cards in your deck, they functionally kicked 4 cards out of the deck, which is,
Yeesh.
Yeah. Yeah, it went from good to practically unusable, and I just... I've got other things I'd rather do.
That would hinder my, excitement to keep going.
And if I hear that they change that later on, then I'll probably get back into it.
Okay. Yeah, almost. Yeah, I think like I thought about getting into Hearthstone a little bit because you and Valen were playing it so much at the a little ways in, but I think I was so intimidated by the idea that I hadn't kept up with it, and the
main thing Valen and I do.
The cards you needed, right?
The main thing Valen and I do when we're playing together, which you can join us on sometime, is what's called an arena run, where you don't have to have any cards.
Oh, that's right. You get you choose random. You get it.
Yeah, and sometimes those are fun, and other times they're terrible because you just get completely shafted on what you actually get in terms of cards.
Yeah,
but it's $2 to do an arena run if you don't have any of the in-game currency at all. And otherwise you can do in-game currency.
Okay. I don't know, Jump. It sounds like you need to play StarCraft with us, is what I think. What that sounds like.
I'm sure that's what you're hearing. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Oh, man. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, you'll probably get me there eventually. I'm just not into it right now.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, do we have... so I added this weekly recommendations idea. And this doesn't have to be video game related necessarily, but just something you, not even something you're into recently, but just something you would like to call attention to. That's cool.
I say you go first while I'm thinking.
Okay.
If you have something, otherwise we'll both just be thinking of things. Or I could bring up the exact opposite.
Okay, well, I've got one that's totally serious.
Okay.
So this evening, my 2-year-old son and I decided to, since, the wife's out for the evening, so the, dude's night.
Mm-hmm.
We decided to watch this movie called Oddball, which is just a delightful tale. It's on Amazon Prime right now, about this dog who's just not good at guarding the chicken house. He just isn't focused. He just does not care about guarding those chickens. But turns out, does love guarding penguins.
Okay.
And there's this island where foxes have been getting on the island and killing the penguins. And the penguin sanctuary needs at least 10 penguins on the island to keep their funding and to stay open.
Okay.
So it is discovered through various hijinks that this dog really cares about these penguins. And Alan Tudyk's in it, which was a surprise. It's apparently based off a true story, which was also a surprise. But it's just a delightful little tale about penguins and trying to save some penguins with a cute. Actually, the dog is pretty big, but a cute dog.
Okay.
I believe the movie is called Oddball. It's based in Australia. True story, everybody. Look out for those penguins. So that is my completely serious recommendation. It helps to have kind of the wide-eyed excitement of a toddler with you, kind of just squealing at every penguin and dog that shows up on the screen.
Yeah, I would imagine that would help.
That may have helped. So yeah. That's my recommendation. I can see chat is very excited.
A series I've been rewatching recently that is one of my favorites is Arrested Development. That's something I would recommend, especially if you like the series It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It has a similar but less brutal sense of humor.
I was going to say less annoying, but that's my
well, that would be a fair criticism. I just mean, like...
No, you're right. You're right.
The Bluth family is a family of people you're intended to not care about because terrible things happen to them. Yeah.
Although, the first 3 seasons, for sure, I have not... When they came back, I was not as...
Season 5, so far, they've only released half of it for some reason, but so far it's better than Season 4 was.
Yeah.
The first 3 seasons, I agree, are great, And I do want to specifically point out David Cross's performance is fantastic. He plays Tobias Funke.
Yeah.
And there's just like, of the main cast, there's no one I would place. Like, everyone is just fantastic in their role, and I wouldn't get in. I literally can't think of a better actor for any of those roles.
However, I do want to have to unfortunately point out that some of them are garbage people.
Well, I'm not surprised by that.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, David Cross seems to be one of them, and Jeffrey Tambor also.
So that's that David Cross is a garbage person, and Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah, so that's kind of, unfortunately, I have not really kept up. That's just kind of, but no, you're in terms of their acting chops, you are correct. They are very good.
Is anyone else a garbage person in that show that I should be aware of?
You know what? Jumpblade, like everyone is, I guess. I don't know. It's just
fair enough.
Just wait long enough, and
I'll talk with my friend after this who specializes in these matters and see what I can find out.
You can look up, like, there's a pretty rough interview where the cast, like, is Jessica Walter, I think is her, the mom, is kind of talking about how a little bit of how, like, Jeffrey Tambor, like, treated her on, like, set and stuff, and she was almost kind of shouted down by the rest of the. It was pretty ugly. Like, she was like in tears and stuff. So not a great look. So that's all right. What's a more positive thing to end on here? Do we have any questions from the chat? Problem is, you have to wait like 30 seconds before they get that prompt. We already let's say Junkblade's already come up with a good title and topic actually for next week.
Also, if it does help, I've heard that the main cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is literally the exact opposite of the characters they portray on screen, and everyone's like a one person. That's
worthwhile. White Nova, when are we playing Rocket? Okay, we're gonna play Rocket League, I promise. When is? Do you know when Valen's coming back?
He replied the 23rd.
23rd? Okay.
So I would say wait until at least the 24th because,
But once we can get our Death Squad of 3 together, then we're gonna hit the Rocket League pitch. That's British for field. With reckless abandon, White Nova, I promise. Let's see. Yeah. But we've been talking a little bit more about the randomizer in our free time, so maybe we'll get an attempt on that with Junkblade and the crew. We'll see. Well, do you have any thoughts on World Cup final? Didn't watch it. I wanted Croatia to win. They didn't, so that's a bummer. I also would have preferred England versus France because I don't think England as a country could have handled playing France in the World Cup final, which would have been humorous. But I do at least appreciate that I think the score was like 4-2, so there was at least like scoring. So that's good. Junkblade, do you have any thoughts on the World Cup final?
Didn't watch it. Don't know anything about it. I'm not a sports ball watcher.
Not a problem.
Literally the only game I recall watching recently was back in February. Or somewhere around there.
Okay.
It was the 16 seat beating the 1 seat in college basketball.
Maryland.
I was at a sports bar when I saw that.
Maryland, Baltimore County or something like that?
Yeah, it's something that no one even knows the name of.
Beating Virginia. Way to go, Virginia.
Yeah, it wasn't a good win either. Like, they clobbered Virginia by 20 points.
Yeah. It was kind of crazy that the first time it happened just wasn't. It was like a no doubt. Like so many, the games that have been close before and stuff, and this one was just like, oh, no, you have lost this game with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
But okay. Halle Night, keep playing. Do you have any other potential gaming plans in the upcoming week?
Not specifically.
All right.
Mainly just Hollow Knight.
Yeah, keep it open, keep it loose, keep it free.
Yeah. That's the way I like doing it.
Let's see, I'm gonna do Octopath Traveler some more, and then also see where the wind takes me. I gotta keep going on Persona 5.
I think that's another game where you have to do several different things to get the true ending.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember my friend telling me about the true ending, which sounds really cool, but I don't have a system to play Persona 5 on, so...
Yeah. Well, that's also what YouTube is for, to be honest. Because so the thing about Persona is that the number of characters that you can have relationships with, and like how optimized you would have to be. And I think Persona 5 is a little better at this than other games, the previous ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like there's so little margin for like there's like literal guides on like, okay, Wednesday you have to spend time with this person, Thursday it's this person, like to max out the social links and stuff that I almost get paralyzed by. Oh God, what if I don't hang out with the right people and just get lame characters? I need to just get over that and follow my heart. It'll guide me. In honor of our discussion, I'm going to put on some more music from Legend of Kyrandia.
Sounds like a good plan.
As we, do our outro here. I want to thank everyone for joining us. It's always fantastic to have people in the chat to
Indeed it is.
talk to and kind of feed off of. That always helps us. And we also just, enjoy talking to people. So, Jumpblade, do you have any sign-off thoughts?
Not especially.
All right.
Play Hollow Knight. It is good.
Play it.
Especially if you like Dark Souls.
Yes. New in vogue Hollow Knight. Back in the public eye. Back at it again. And for myself, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys at some point next week. Hopefully we'll drag someone else on the cast, but if not, I have no problem. We're capable of steering this ship, I think. So.
Indeed we are.
All right. Good night, everybody.